In my first Talaria video, we rode in this same canyon, and actually later on the same day. If you haven't seen my first video, click on the card above to see how that ride went. On that ride, the ranger we spoke to, who told us about the closed trail we had planned on doing, had directed us to a different trailhead parking lot, and that's where we started from today. I was too busy getting ready for the ride, so I didn't record any video of that in the parking lot, but here we are just out of it.
I'm at 78% at the beginning of this ride, and I'm tracking it with Strava.
Between rides, we went to lunch, and I was able to charge up the Talaria from 58% to 78% before hitting the trails again. After the earlier ride, we then relocated to this new region, and in the meantime, it had rained a little bit. In some places, you can see the trail is still dry under some trees and bushes, yet in other areas, there are some puddles.
This is a very different type of trail, that's for sure. Not only is it wet, but it's narrower and has a lot of roots in it.
Due to the rain, the trail was quite slippery in some places, so I'm not riding as fast as I would have otherwise. I also tried not to ride right behind the other guys because of the flinging mud.
It's interesting, the trail is dry up here all of a sudden. Did not expect that.
Initially, the brakes squeaked a bit, but largely stopped after about 5 minutes. Even though the weather was on the wet side, it did make for some dramatic clouds in the mountains, which looked really cool and made the inconveniences more worth it.
Yeah, it's a different style of riding for sure, and there's a lot of slippery roots. Look at this beautiful mountain meadow with mist up in the clouds.
One advantage of the Talaria that I just keep thinking about as we're riding is, due to its lightweight and smaller size, it's much easier to maneuver around obstacles. One of the drawbacks compared to the other guys riding with me is that they have larger tires in the front, and their tires are wider too, so they're able to go faster and they don't feel the bumps as much as I do. In the future, when these tires wear out, I'll upgrade to a larger tire in the front for sure.
I've been going for 2 miles now, and that's been 17 minutes of riding. And the battery is down to 71%. Started at 78%.
So here it turns from a blue to a black.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see how it is in the rain.
Okay. The tricky part with this trail so far is it's got a very deep wedge, and it's hard not to be in that wedge because the sides are so steep. So you really need to balance in the wedge, and there's all these wet, slippery roots and rocks and things. Okay, we're kind of through that now, but that was interesting right there at the beginning. We've now gone 3 miles. We've been going for 25 minutes and we're at 68% on the battery, so that means we've gone down 10%. And this is the status of my bike. Definitely good and muddy. We're broken in now. Beautiful view. Yeah, it's starting to get more difficult now. This constant low end torque and no need to clutch is coming in clutch right now. You know what I mean? I can feel the back tire slipping a lot behind me, so I'm like right at the edge of the traction. I got too close. Well, yes, that was a tougher spot back there than most. Ooh, this is a fun little... Ooh. Whew. That is gnarly. Whew. Wow, that was definitely the hardest section that I've done so far on this bike. I struggled the most, but it definitely would have been a lot harder to be lugging the weight of a much bigger, heavier bike, of course.
The Insta360 camera works great for recording video back towards me to show the terrain we're riding through. But on this ride, I unfortunately didn't realize it was in time-lapse mode, so all my video from that camera is too fast to be very usable. In future rides, I'll keep my eye on whether it's on time-lapse or regular video more carefully. This is an amazing view up here. That right there is Wallsburg Valley, if you're familiar with that. So that's right next to Deer Creek Reservoir, which is just below it. In fact, you can see the edge of the water just barely over here. And then over this way is Heber Valley. So we can see really far from up here, and it's obviously gorgeous. If we come over this way, look at the beautiful clouds up in the mountains. I mean, this is what I bought my bike for, is to be able to see views like this. In order to see beautiful views like this, you often have to deal with, you know, rain, inclement weather, but it's so worth it. Look how beautiful this is. Although it's going to be a pain in the butt to clean my bike when I get back home. Look how muddy that thing is. I realized after this ride that I should let some air out of my tires, as on this ride I had them at 20 psi, which is a bit too high for this light of a bike and for a dirt trail. After getting through the technical single track, we rode down a dispersed camping road, which was in kind of rough shape in a couple of areas, and I was surprised to see people had their RVs up in there.
Look at this gorgeous meadow. Yeah. Oh, did you wreck?
This corner, because this is like wood, my back tire just...
Oh. All right, noted.
Yeah.
Do you need help?
You alright? I think I got it.
Are you injured?
Oh no, not at all. It was a fun little slide. I was in 4th gear. Oh dude.
You got
I
it?
think I got it.
All right.
Oh yeah, you have an e-start. You got it.
We've been going 10.6 miles. We've been going an hour and 35 minutes. My battery's at 47%.
Nice.
I lost 6% in just that highway portion going uphill really fast.
Jeez.
That was not efficient.
That's awesome.
During that high-speed segment, we were going up a very steep part of the mountain road, and I twisted the throttle as far as it would go for a solid couple of minutes, and I could just see the battery percentage ticking down as we rode. It made me appreciate how much more energy is required to go fast up a steep hill versus how little energy is used going up these technical single tracks slowly, which are themselves still very steep uphill.
This would not be that hard if it wasn't muddy. All right, slightly less muddy here. Whew, slippery.
Yeah. Dude, I'm freaking loving it. Like my back tire around like all those turns was like just peeling and flinging.
So this is what my bike and I look like after that ride. As you can see, we had lots of fun. We rode for an hour and 43 minutes, and we had an average speed of 6.6 miles per hour, and we went 11.57 miles. The battery's at 41%, and we started at 78%. Now, the battery went down 6% in a portion of the drive that was on a highway at high speed going up a very steep hill. And so that was the fastest by far I have seen the battery declining while I've owned this, which is not long, but it declined very fast going full speed. I was twisting the throttle as far as it would go for a little while, and it dropped 6% that fast. But for these single track and you know, different off-roading type roads where you're not going quite as fast, the battery life on it lasts extraordinarily long. Here's the aftermath of that ride. The bike is totally dirty, and good thing I have a power washer at home because I'm going to be using it. But we had a ton of fun, and it worked great. Never had any issues due to the mud. Worked awesome. Also, this phone mount right here worked fantastic for me. I've been using this for a long time now, several months, and Andobil sent this to me to evaluate and test. I'll put a link in the description down below to it. As you can see, we did a crazy ride today, and the phone was completely secure. It never rotated around the handlebars. I have this screwed down pretty tight here. It does rotate. If I loosen it right here, then it allows me to angle this in different directions. And then it expands upwards for bigger phones, and then also has these side clamps for locking it on. Then there's a release button on the bottom that pops it out. So this has been working fantastic for me. It's worked on obviously this bike now. I've had it on my other e-bike for many months. Works great there. Even when you're going down really bumpy trails, this just stays rock solid. And also I have used this on the shift lever of my truck, and it holds my phone while we're on road trips in the RV. So no complaints here, works fantastic, highly recommend it. See the link in the description down below. That is not going anywhere.
Let's look at the detailed Strava information now after the fact. You can see here it logged 11.57 miles via GPS, and our actual moving time was an hour and 2 minutes. And then it shows that our elevation change was 2,166 feet. And then down here you can see that our average speed was 11.1 miles per hour, but our max speed got up to 42 miles per hour. And then our total elapsed time was an hour and 44 minutes. If we look down here, we can see a satellite view of the route. And if I move my mouse along this graph, which is the elevation graph, you can see how the elevation changed as we went throughout that route. And so we actually not climbing a whole lot. We were just going up and down until we got to the peak here, which was the end of the single track. And then we were coming down the gravel road where the RVs were parked here and there and other trucks. And we got all the way down to the bottom here before we began to climb again. And then we got on single track again right here. And then we were still climbing on that single track all the way over to here. If we take this full screen and I'll zoom out a bit, you can get a better feel for where this route was. This is the Salt Lake Valley up here, and this is Utah Lake down here. So this is the American Fork Canyon, and then this is the Summit parking lot right here where we parked, and then the route that we did from there. Now if we come over here in Strava to the analyze or analysis section, this is kind of interesting down here. It gives us a graph showing the speed versus the estimated power consumed over the course of that. So we can move our mouse along here, and you can see that blue line is the speed. Mostly it was pretty consistent, kind of low, up and downs as I was navigating all the muddy terrain, and the power being used to navigate that terrain. The really stark, interesting difference is this long hill section that's downhill, so obviously we're not using very much, but our speed is high, so that's clearly downhill. And then we get over to here and our power or our speed jumps up dramatically, and then here is when we start going back uphill and the power just pegs all the way to the maximum power, and our speed is maintained as we continue going uphill very quickly, but it's using a lot of power to do so now because we're going up a steep mountain grade. And then we get back on the trail and it goes back to pretty much how it was before. However, we are going up in elevation now, so you'll see that the estimated power spikes a little bit more regularly than it did before, but not terribly much. So the bike is far more efficient when it's going slow on that technical single track versus obviously going fast uphill. I'm now heading back home. The battery's at 41%. So let's see how much we regen on the way down. And this was what the energy consumption looked like on the way up. Now we're going to go into the green significantly. I don't really have much here in the way of stats to report for the Tesla because I was driving down the mountain the same route that I came up, and I ended up getting home with 45%. So I actually gained 4% of charge over the course of the whole drive home. And so that was a 16-mile drive, and drove it all the way straight back home. And so I guess you could say that was a net negative cost of energy and or money that we paid for that energy, which our energy comes from the solar panels on the roof of our house. And if you're interested in seeing more videos about that, I'll put a card above to the playlist of all of my solar panel videos. And just like that, I am home. So looking at the battery on the car, we're down to 44%, and so we regained some while we were coming home. And this is what the energy graph looks like. You can see we're getting 290 watt-hours per mile over the last 30 miles. So clearly going up into the canyon consumed a lot of energy, and then we got a lot coming back out. Keep in mind the rated mileage, meaning kind of the expectation from the manufacturer, is 300 watt-hours per mile. So we're pretty much right on there, but it's extremes in the highs and in the lows, especially when towing a small trailer and going up into the mountains. Now I'm going to get the mud off the bike before it gets dry. I hope this has been helpful to see what the Talaria MX4 is capable of, and with that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.